And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because, I don't know. No, actually, I do know, but it's a long and convoluted story, and it's not really that interesting most of the time. It's just that we needed somewhere to bitch, and, well, we decided that we're going to give it to all of you. That's really more accurate than it's not. Of course, as always, it's because sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble. You can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Yes, muscle memory is a fun and wonderful thing, because fortunately I actually go through a good portion of that without having to think about it anymore, which is a dangerous, dangerous thing. Joining this morning, because of the way that everything operates, from the Midwest of the U.S., where we were just saying it's unseasonably warm, Bridget Fitch gets to make it. Good evening.
Good evening.
And over the water into Paris, where it's not exactly unseasonably bright out yet because it's becoming morning. Joseph gets to join us. Good morning.
Good morning.
So yeah, it's good to be back with you. Yeah, over here in Buffalo this week, I was just telling Bridget it has been highly unseasonably warm. Like, it's long pants, and I could get away with a light windbreaker just because of the wind picking up. But it was, yeah. There's no snow in the forecast. There's not even close. All the snow that's been on the ground is just going away, and yeah, it's not supposed to be like this. And Bridget was saying it's warm her side too.
Yeah, it was t-shirt weather today.
And how about over your ways, Joseph?
Oh, yeah, warm and rainy.
Yeah,
But hey, there's still snow in Antarctica, so climate change is not real.
that helps. That helps.
But the sea ice extent is low.
Yeah, that's a whole other piece. Not a good piece either, like that. Anyways, good day, everyone. Good to have you back with us. And some of you that are over there watching us on YouTube, yeah, I'll explain in a couple of seconds. Which, by the way, if you do decide to join us on YouTube, you can be part of the live chat over there. Stephanie, good to have you over there. Hope everything's working good. Io, nice to see you. Thank you very kindly. And got to think about that. And Felis, you're able to make it. Hello. So, by the way, guys, I didn't tell you about this. Io has, well, I don't remember, I'm trying to remember who it was. Over on the Discord for the show, which, yes, we do have a Discord, believe it or not. Yes, you can find the link to it over in the show notes. Somebody has decided that we have a repository for information for each of the shows, and is going to be like, folks can like drop pieces of information so that I don't forget about them to add them into the show notes, because I have a bad habit of forgetting stuff because it's the way that I am. So if you'd like to be dropping in information over there, cool. During the middle of the week, if you want to drop information for, a potential show idea topic kind of thing, free. Always happy to have that going over there. Get it. And like I was saying, over on YouTube, some of you might be looking at me going, okay, something's different. What's new with your hair? Well, yeah, I'm not wearing my hat tonight. And mainly because what I decided to wear on my attire for the evening. And it is actually, for those of you that are looking, it is the yukata that my wife and I bought for me when we were in Japan. It's a twofer. Yes, I know it's not Chinese. No, it's not in honor of Chinese New Year. It's actually in because of uh, Hearts and Hooves Day coming up, or Half Price Chocolate Day coming up, or Valentine's Massacre Day, or whatever the hell it is that you celebrate. Because it was kind of a fun thing for me to decide to wear. There we go. And for anyone that's wondering, I've finally decided to go into the cabinet and get the last of the sampler bottles that I have to try alcohol-wise. Bridget, you know what that one is? Joseph, you know what that one is?
I've only tried it once, and it was diluted in beer.
Okay. Okay. For those that are just listening, I have finally opened up the bottle of Jägermeister. Heard about this stuff. I don't know anything about it. But talking with my kid about it, he's very much of the opinion of, yeah, that's nice. I could see drinking that more. Okay.
Well, normally it's a get shit-faced quick method.
I do not know. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is different. I am very much not used to the sampler bottles stuff now where it is as dark as some of the beers that I've tried. Okay. Different. It's not killing me with a scent as soon as I open it, not like some of these others that I've tried where it's just like astringent. And it just knocked over all the bottles that I had over here on the desk. Perfect. Because I've still got all the bottles over here because I have fun looking at them because I keep thinking to myself, oh, this would be kind of cool. I could make a leather bottles out of these designs. You know, I could shape stuff. I've done leather work in the past, and I thought it would be kind of cool. And I just haven't done any of that stuff in a long time. Most of these bottles are plastic. The Jägermeister, that's actually glass. So it's got some heft to it. So, I guess this sip first to find out what I get to say about it.
What's with all the small bottles? Where do you get those? Do you have a friend in your entourage who has a very high hotel bill?
No, I get them from a liquor store.
Okay.
Yep. I'm not going to name it because there's only one specific company that we talk about over here. But between where I live and where I go to work, there is one large liquor store. But they've got wines from all over the country, from all over the world, and an entire wall of just sampler bottles like those. So I mean, they're pretty okay. This is a little on the weird side now because I took a sip off of. Oh yeah, it's Jägermeister. I took a sip off of that, and I'm already starting to feel like some numbness in my cheeks. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's definitely a different thing, but it's definitely not hitting me, like I said before, like it's astringent, like some of these others have.
But you're turning red.
I don't. So
Well, there's a little rosiness around your cheekiness.
it's just because I'm not wearing pants. I think is probably the thing. Well, I mean, we're doing a podcast recording. I mean, it's kind of the thing, right?
Nobody who does a podcast wears pants.
Exactly. Which is why I've got
Common
the.
knowledge.
So I guess we'll give it a try. Oh yeah, what did the IO's giving me? Dang, shoot, go for the hard stuff. Well, considering that I've tried, let's see, what was in the list over here? Royal Crown, Southern Comfort, Maker's Mark, and Jameson. Yeah, it's another one of these things where I've tried different things and found out that most of these I don't particularly. So I guess I guess down
You
the
didn't.
hatch.
You did.
Hmm?
You didn't like Southern Comfort.
I don't really. Most of these have been just too harsh. I mean,
That
I
one's
understand that
sweet.
they're, mostly alcohol, so it's technically a low grade poison. At least that's
Yeah.
what Joey would say. No,
You don't want to get a hangover on that stuff.
probably not.
For me, it's Southern Discomfort.
And Io's even saying, "Yeah, I'm turning red." Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out how long I last for the show. So, oh God, I'm actually afraid this time. So, kampai.
Oshibai.
Okay. Okay. That didn't hurt. That didn't hurt at all. Huh.
Yeah, that's well. Wait for it to come back up.
Don't say that. I'm the host of the show. I have all the power on all the streaming stuff, and if this starts to no, we're not going to have that happen. That is
Yeah,
not
if
going
you
to
pass
happen.
out, if you pass out, this is going to be a long show. Going to be nobody to shut it off.
Yeah, there is that. And we have already discovered what my drinking threshold is. One night, it's 1.5 liters of wine over the course of the 2-hour recording. That is apparently just over my limit.
2 bottles.
Sorry that you got garbled.
Oh, I said 2 bottles.
Yep, 2
2
bottles
bottles
of
of wine.
750.
Usually it's
Yeah.
74, 72,
No.
75, yeah.
No, 750 milliliter. I don't remember what the alcohol thing on it was, but if anybody wants to look it up, I've showed it off a number of times. It's Woodbury Vineyard out of Fredonia, New York, which will end up talking about. The wine that I get, well, I've had for a while now, is they are Niagara. I love it. It's the wine that my wife and I loved, and that's the stuff that I get every once in a while. But I've still got several bottles that I haven't finished yet.
But wait, out of Niagara? Is it a red or a white?
It's a white, but it's made out from Niagara grapes. So it's a very sweet.
Yeah.
So it's
It's like a Sauternes.
I don't know what that term means, so I can't.
Sauternes is it's a wine made from they call it noble rot. Basically, they leave the grape on the vine and until it begins to dehydrate, to dry, and what's left over is a very sugary mix. And there's some mold in there as well, which gives it some of its taste. But I don't think Niagara does that. They do ice wine, which is really quite good.
Yeah, they do have ice Riesling, I think is what they have. I forget what it's called. It's been a long time since I've seen their list of everything that they do, but I like it. I like it.
But even my hometown, it's not far from Niagara, but the white wine there was just so bad. It's a joke I make often. Their dicton, their motto should be aged on the truck.
Considering the stories that I had heard about how they used to make wine at home in the bathtub in Brooklyn back in the day. Yeah, I understand that. I get that. So,
we have a newcomer. A new old comer.
Who?
Normally Tech just joined.
I did not even notice because I was looking at something else. So, yes, before I get going with everything, Unknown Tech from the East Coast, how you doing? Let me try this again. On Renault Tech, how you doing? We don't have any audio.
Is it possible to sleep join a show?
If it is, he's done it.
Or at least he's not snoring.
There is that. For what it's worth, Tech, I don't see a mute symbol on you, which means that something is just not coming through right now. So that's okay. We'll come back to you when I catch up with everything. So you see what you can do on everything and kind of work it over from there. Otherwise, let me get everything rolling because we got a show to do, and we'll see how long it lasts, assuming that I don't have too much to worry about with the booze in me. I don't think we've got much to worry about, but working for me. So, with 5 minutes on the clock, as always, your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. Love. I know. It's a concept I don't talk about very often. And it's an incredibly difficult one for me. Because I have gone through a good portion of my life where I have had love in some form or other, very deep love, ripped away. And it's about the only way that I can really describe it. There are a couple of events that have happened, and I, believe it or not just talking about my wife. There are a couple of things. Not the least of which, there is one early in my childhood that didn't exactly help. In English, there is basically just the singular word, love, and you're supposed to try to figure out what the context is by who you're talking about and how you're talking about. And I know full well, in Greek, there are a number of different terms for what we use the word love for in English. And some of it is just different facets of love, if you will. Love between two people romantically, or two people platonically, or for one person for a large group of people, or for society or humanity at large. There are different terms that are used because there are different striations, for lack of a better way of putting it. I don't use the word love, generally speaking, most of the time. The vast majority of the time, I don't use the word. When I talk about my wife, absolutely. Absolutely. Because she was my everything. And guys who have been with me long enough to know, you've heard me say it. The only other person that I use the term for, usually, is our kid. He's the closest person that I have to me. And in a lot of ways, using the word love is... I have, I guess you could say, a fear of using it. And believe it or not, it's not because what some people might think, that maybe I think that I would be insulting my wife or her memory or legacy or anything like that. It do with that. I don't use the word because I've associated it now with loss. Because there are people who I have loved greatly and deeply. And I'm not going to say more deeply than anyone else, because I mean that's hardly possible. I have loved individuals very deeply, just like so many of the rest of us, and lost them in ways that have been all too similar to each other. At least to me. In ways that they're just gone. And yeah, I know when people die, yeah, it's just, they're there and then they're just not, because, you turn off the calculator and gone. But I mean, in terms of, I could have had another moment. There was one person, I literally could have driven to go see them in the hospital. And I was dissuaded from doing that. Then they were gone. I had another that I really wanted to be able to see them again. And I come back from a full day and they're just, not just gone, but I didn't have an opportunity to say goodbye in any capacity. And I know I'm kind of vague booking on that a little bit, but it's okay to be able to say you are cherished. Because if you let the other people know that in your own way means I love you, it's okay to use that term. And I say that because that's what I do. I cherish you. Thank you for being someone that. With that out of the way, just real briefly. Like I said, I know that Valentine's Day is coming up, and for some people that's kind of a sore subject. I get that. I get that a lot, very much so. So I have no intentions of foisting that on folks. So just keep that in mind as we come through the horrible scopes, because I wanted to make them as lighthearted as possible. I didn't want to drag anybody accidentally through the mud because of it all. Because, I mean, let's face it, the lovey-dovey Valentine's Day thing is not exactly everybody's thing. So keep that in mind. So while we got a couple of seconds before we go over to the horrible scopes, let's try again. Unrenowned Tech, take 2. Are you there?
Yeah, why?
There you are. Now we've got audio. Good to have you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. I'm not dead yet.
I would expect other. You know what? You made it to the show. That's close enough. If you actually were, like, dead and you were calling into the show, that would be friggin' monumental. So if that does happen, please consider doing that, because I would love that.
Oh, trust me, if that was something that I could accomplish, this is not the show I'd be calling in to do that on. I'd be having a conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Because at least he'd be able to frame everything properly, you know? I don't mean that you can't, but I mean for the audience, because there are so many people who would take it completely out of context.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And over there on YouTube, by the way, those of you that are kind of looking at it going, what happened to the video? Yeah, I had to do stuff, and you didn't need to see the background stuff of what was going on, so don't worry about it. I turned off the video. I turned on the video. It's all good.
Yeah, we can't see the video here either, so don't worry about it.
All good.
Yeah, just remember, he's not wearing any pants.
No, I am not. I am wearing my yukata because I wanted to. Because
And he doesn't always have both hands present at the same time.
No, I usually don't. And you know why? Because I have to.
It feels good, and that's why, damn it.
Because I have to run this whole damn thing. And that's what I'm going with.
Look, all I'm saying is use lotion, otherwise you're going to start chafing.
I don't have that worry.
Problem solved.
So as mentioned, it is time for the horrible scopes. So for those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, you can just find yourself a D12 with all the weird squigglies on it, roll that, and see how it works out. And if you don't have one of them, get in touch with the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia, and they'll sell you one. They can't ship it to you, but they'll gladly take your money. You can just do that. And if you look them up on Google Earth, you'll find that they're the shop with the mimic in the window. Please remember that.
Somebody doesn't have it open.
I'm sorry, what's going on?
There's only 3 of us in it.
I don't think that that's really a problem right now.
Okay.
So, part of the game, Fredonia, let them know that I sent you. That'd be wonderful. Now, seeing as how there's likely to be some new ears and eyes reading the horrible scopes after certain events this past week, let's get back to the basics and see what the music randomizer has to help with topics. So if you're a new person, welcome. And if you're a returner, welcome back. There's some people that get that reference, and I have to let the person that fired that know, because I think they'll find it funny. Either that or I'm going to get a cease and desist letter, and you know what, whatever the hell, it'll be what it'll be. Aries, the randomizer came up with Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto in B-flat minor. It's a pretty famous piece, and we're kind of guessing you don't know it by name. It's not like there needs to be any spoilers about this piece since it came out 150 years ago in 1875. So this week, how about putting on some music that doesn't require electrified instruments for a change? And yes, Lounge Lizard covers of songs count.
Taurus, speaking of song covers with electrified instruments, there are songs that are simply and objectively wrong. No, this isn't a subjective thing. If you enjoy the song Tainted Love, stick with the 1965 original by Gloria Jones or the 1981 cover by Soft Cell, because you will hate the 1988 cover by Coil. Seriously, just trust us on this. So this week, yes, we've warned you all about this version before. Seriously, just don't look it up. You cannot unhear it. This is not the earworm that you want in your head.
It's true.
Didn't Marilyn Manson do a cover of Tainted Love?
I'm pretty sure did, yes. But
Yes, he did.
wasn't that great? Tech, all yours.
Oh, I thought it was Joseph because I came last.
No, you get the seniority order.
Let me guess, you're still trying to open the file.
No.
Oh, really? Okay. Gemini,
I'm getting used to this phone.
it's seniority. I think you're older than me. Gemini, looks like you'll be doing some home drinking this week. Your song is a 1979 hit from the Ramones, I Wanna Be Sedated. And for a band that's considered punk, it's a pretty pedestrian rock and roll song. But it is a good excuse to hit up the liquor store on the way home. So this week, look through the wall of samplers, find labels with your favorite color on them, and buy a half dozen of them randomly. You might like it, you might not, but at least you'll have an excuse to not go driving that night.
Cancer Moonchild. Holy hell, this is just beyond weird. Cancer, you just got a 4-minute long advertisement song from Japan with only 2 words in it. Your song is, and we swear this is a real thing, Pepsi Man. And take a wild guess what the 2 words are. So this week, head on over to opencola.io and follow the recipe to make your own cola syrup. It'll be fabulous.
It'll take a couple of days to do it, but hey, it'd be fun. I've actually seriously considered trying to do that out, but I just don't have the patience. Leo.
I think there was a oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, there was a song from the Plastics that had like 1 word in it. You know the Plastics?
I have heard of, but I don't have any idea what that song might be. So
Look them up. I'm sure you'll love it.
I don't know that I will, but we'll find out. Leo, let's get you something fun and strange and so cool even Weird Al parodied it. Your song is the Red Hot Chili Peppers' Give It Away from 1991. The weirdest part about the song is how they wrote the bridge part of the song. Two writers worked, then battled to the death to make it the final version in the studio. So this week, stop believing everything you read on the internet. Seriously, no one fought to the death for this song. What do you think that they are? Fleetwood Mac?
Yabba dabba yabba dabba yabba dabba do now. Yabba dabba.
Seriously, the Fleetwood Mac cut, that is, for anybody that understands that, oh my god, that is a really hilarious. There.
Virgo, let's get some Southern rock in here. How about the song Down on the Corner? But specifically John Fogerty performing it with his family in 2020. The fact that he's got kids with enough talent to join in and sound good is a testament to parenting in this day and age. So this week, think about what your parents tried to teach you from how they were and how it never took for you. You're not a disappointment to them. You're your own person. They still love you.
So when we rolled over from 99 into 2000, I was in D.C. John Fogerty and company was in concert there. And later on, after the countdown, the fireworks went off the fireworks display. Actually, one of them fell over and started shooting into the crowd. That is a New Year's I will never forget, both because of John Fogerty and the fireworks. Libra, well, it finally happened. Weird Al showed up with a classic, My Bologna, from 1983, which was not recorded in a college bathroom. Do you remember that he specifically mentions Oscar Mayer in the lyrics? That gives us this week's item. Without singing the Oscar Mayer My Baloney Has a First Name song, can you spell baloney? You bet you can't. Hint, it was in my first pronunciation.
Yeah, you pronounce Bologna like Canadians pronounce Toronto. Scorpio, we're not giving you a specific song, but a complete genre. The blues. It's the root of everything from big band to rockabilly to rock and roll and beyond. Hell, if you listen carefully, you'll start to hear it in like 90% of Prince's music too. So this week, listen to Rhapsody in Blue just to cleanse your brain. It'll be worth it.
It's a good song. Rhapsody in Blue is a good song. Oh, yeah.
Gershwin, no?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sagittarius, we're careening back to the hairspray-suffused atmosphere of 1977 and pairing you with the Talking Heads song Psycho Killer. Not because we think you're out to hurt anyone, but because there's a great cover of this song called Psycho Chicken by The Fools. So this week, if you want to make your own KFC dinner, you'll need to prep a day in advance. It's not worth it. Just go out and buy a Colonel's Extra Crispy Buy a Colonel's Classic Crisp.
Extra.
Hold it. There's a thing about this. I'll explain in a second. Just go out and buy a Colonel's Classic Extra Crispy bucket and get extra napkins. Here's the thing. When we did this horrible scope last night, the person that was reading it actually screwed up in exactly the same location. I don't know why. I'm having a problem because I'm the one that freaking wrote it, you know?
Yeah, your brain wants to continue the CCCC.
I don't, you know what? It is what it is.
Capricorn. Something old is something new again. And for you, we're jumping a couple of decades up to 2021 in the DG's cover of More Than a Woman. The best part about this song isn't listening to Dave Grohl singing falsetto, but the album title, Hail Satin. So this week, take your bets on who would win a drum battle, Dave or Animal from the Muppets.
We already know the answer to that question.
Well, before you give it away, remember, Animal went up against Buddy Rich, lost. Went up against Harry Belafonte, and lost. Went up against, I forgot what her name was. That Rita Moreno, and lost. Animal's due for a win.
I promise I won't give it away. Give it away. Give it away. No, give it away. Give it away. Aquarius, we know you keep thinking we pick on you specifically, and we're sorry for this happening. You're getting something that most people have never heard about, never mind, never heard before, and they're the lucky ones. You're getting the song, God, the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. And we're not joking here. By the way, I've heard it. Leonard Nimoy. Yes, Mr. Spock cut an album out of spite with Shatner. So this week, look, we know you just want to be treated nice. We're sorry. Seriously. Look, we'll buy you some coffee crisp bars for next week. Cool? I have listened to that song, Leonard Nimoy singing the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
It's horrible.
It's horrible, but honestly, I'm willing to bet if people are stoned, it's probably freaking hilarious.
We basically talked about that briefly because one of the other presenters last night said, well, I've heard Shatner sing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and the rest of us were just like, no one has ever heard William Shatner sing. He doesn't sing. That's not his thing. And he didn't sing. Listen to any performance. He doesn't sing. He does the whole beatnik slam poetry thing with a cigarette in his hand and trying to get through the lyrics and just
narrating. Pisces. Oh, this one is going out to a specific recipient this week in honor of their birthday. Hey, Sam. We know you don't believe in these horrible scopes, but here's a little something for you anyway. Since you enjoy beer making and radio broadcasting, how about making a 1 minute long segments on your station where you give updates on the next batch you're making? What's the CO2 output and the specific density and the color? It could be fun for those of us who don't know anything about it. Maybe turn it into a podcast. So this week, I know you've got a podcast out there already, but come on, man. We want Becky to cover for you, letting us know you've got a concussion because the cork exploded out when you screwed something up. Worst case scenario, we'll buy you a pint at the pub, okay?
And now I'm wondering if anybody actually recognizes who I'm directing this one at.
Yes.
No.
It's a friend of the show, Sam and Becky over there at Ask an Atheist.
Okay. Hello.
Those are your horrible scopes for this week. Remember, if you like what you got, I don't really care this time. Really, I tried to be nice. It's kind of the way that it worked. But if you want a nicer one or a naughtier one for yourself or someone else next week, you can bribe me by actually either asking or literally bribe me over there on Coffee. Coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. There's a reason for that. And of course, I'll have these posted online at the end of the week. You know, Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, Blue Sky. I do have Blue Sky invites, not that it matters anymore, but I've still got plenty of them. Don't need them anymore, but you know what? Whatever. It'll be what it'll be. They'll just sit there and I don't know. I'll sell them as I'll sell them as NFTs maybe next time. I don't know. Figure it out from there. It is episode 482 on the docket, Your Honor. The future isn't what it used to be. Now that line I'd remembered from Babylon 5. It was a line that was said by Jakar. But looking it up, apparently the line goes back to at least the 30s to a French novelist, I believe is who it was. I didn't write down very specifically, but it didn't really much matter. But the point of it is, we have finally come to an age where what is now being referred to as AI has become something that we need to be not just aware of, but in fear of how the tool is being utilized. Because once upon a time ago in science fiction, AI was supposed to be helping to organize the mounds of information that we generate, the absolutely colossal, towering pages and reams and libraries of data to be able to sort through it at light speed, literally, to try to find the specific pieces of information that we ask it for, so that we can do things more efficiently. But now we've got it happening where it is generating information that A, probably shouldn't be, and B, absolutely shouldn't be. And the problem of it is, it's being used in such a way as to erode the public trust. And I know full well that Tech has got some strong words to say about this one. So, Tech, I'm going to throw it over your way first just to get it out of the way, because we found out that the robocalls that were being done in some areas to dissuade people from voting in primaries and whatnot, that were simulating current President Biden's voice, were done by a company using AI technology, and you had some very strong words and opinions to say about it, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple of moments over here to go ahead and vent that spleen, because otherwise, I just want to get that out of the way now and just be done with it. Floor is yours.
So one of the things, and this has nothing to do with the article, one of the things that does kind of grind my gears is that we keep calling this technology artificial intelligence or AI, and we're doing it a complete disservice. It's like ripping out a couple skin cells from your body and saying that's a human, or that's a brain. We're nowhere near artificial intelligence, not until we have quantum computers doing exponentially more work than they're already doing will we get that close. What we have is we have algorithms, and they can be like a bacteria. They can be given sets of information to work off of and make patterns and such. And they're getting better at it. Voice generation by computers is nothing new. This ties into it all. Deepfakes is what we call things with pictures, video, audio, mimicking people. Doesn't matter whether they're high profile or just the person next door. It's a fake item. So what somebody did is a CEO of a company used this algorithm system to create a deep fake replica of President Biden's voice. Now, you would think, okay, this is not this is massive. It's like actually it's really easy because President Biden is a public figure, and there is tons of material that's available on YouTube, all over the net, all over television, recording, radio, and in-person interviews to generate this algorithmic match, this voice match. And it was used to use robocalls. And if you've never been the victim of a robocall is just an automated call where a text-to-speech engine reads off a series of pre-configured words. Well, this is what happened. It was a robocall with a text-to-speech engine, but that text-to-speech engine was being driven by the algorithm designed to replicate the president's voice. So for all intents and purposes, people thought they were listening to a recording of the president when it was technically created via algorithm. And the message was telling the users not to vote in the November elections, that to wait to vote until you get to the other elections, because those are more important, which is not true. All the elections are important, down from your lowest position of government office. People, there are people I talk to don't even know what a ombudsman is for some of their areas. So there are a lot of positions that are very important to know. They all matter, okay, because they all work their way up eventually for those who are successful or conniving or whatever it may be. But when you start, it's one thing to go, I'm going to put a commercial out there bad mouthing my opponent. Okay. That says something about who you are as a person and as a politician. Especially when at the end of the video, we hear you going, I endorse this. And then we see at the bottom, it was paid for by your campaign group. Okay. We really know how bad you are. Okay. But when somebody fakes that, that's on a level that I elevate that to a level of sedition. Okay. And we should be throwing the hardest possible penalties at people. It needs to be public. It needs to be grandiose. That kind of behavior, using the technology for those purposes, that's unacceptable. It really is. This is not. Oops, they put the president in a pornography movie. Okay, they are screwing with the country, trying to change the votes, that change policy, that change who's in office and everything else on a massive level with this technology. And luckily, the government has gone and said, this shit not happening.
Yeah, hold on a second, because you got a lot there, and there's
it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. And I want to get the other guys in on this one also, but there's also a piece about this that I want to make sure that we've got out there. The sound quality that was transmitted for these also made it sound like it was a really an off the cuff on like an old MP3 player's microphone doing a recording just off the cuff.
It sounded like somebody did it sounded like somebody, because I listened to it. It sounded like somebody had a less than stellar microphone, but still a microphone. Had him recite the what he was reading on a page, and here's where things get a little bit different for those who are not experienced with robocalls. Hold on, this is important. This is the key part that's truly important. With a standard robocall, you have a computer generated voice that sounds like Stephen Hawking's, like his voice. It was word, 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 word. Vocal inflections were not really a thing, but due to the algorithms that they were utilizing, it actually added variance in pitch and tone, vocal inflections, the kind of things he would use when he's actually speaking. So the robo system was using a voice engine that was trained to put the proper inflections and the proper changes in pitch based on the combinations of words that he normally uses in his speeches. That's a big deal right there. And it tricks the human ear into thinking that this is real. And the human brain is very good at dismissing things it doesn't want to hear. It's very good at dismissing mistakes, things that are a little bit wrong. And so there are a lot of people who are also hard of hearing. Oh, the quality doesn't sound that good. I'll just make the excuse for that. So people were listening to this going, oh, the president's actually saying this thing. That's where it's bad.
What I was trying to make sure that we had in there contextually was that it was intentionally made to sound bad in order to hide the imperfections in the replication that was being done artificially, in order to make it harder to distinguish that it actually was a fake instead of the real thing, because otherwise it should have sounded very, very good. So now that we've got that out of the way,
there is one positive thing I'd like to bring to light real quick. I'm very proud of the internet in its response, because they found out who the CEO of the company was that was doing this, who was putting money behind it. They found out, uncovered a whole bunch of stuff. And when the reporter showed up on the doorstep, guess who was hiding behind the curtains? Uh-huh.
There is something to be said for that. So, internet at large, well done. So, Joseph, I think you're ready to go ahead and drop in there. So, what do you got?
Oh, well, I completely agree with tech AI. Well, I'd go further. I'd say AI doesn't exist yet. We're just getting better at calculating statistics, basically, algorithms based on statistics. And this is why we're being tracked everywhere. Everything's based on that. So, and if anything, instead of, well, Google is the principal culprit here, but instead of analyzing our search terms to figure out what we're actually looking for, it's actually playing stupid to better steer us towards markets that are more profitable.
100% agree.
Yeah. So if you put in a search term, well, Google will tell you what you're actually looking for instead of. And try and find a brick and mortar store online. They don't exist anymore as far as Google is concerned.
I will admit, it is harder and harder and harder to be able to manage that.
Yeah. It's just, it's being used, our technology is being used to a very bad end.
Bridget, come on. You're not getting away that easy.
Well, I don't have anything else to add. I agree with tech, and I agree with what Joseph said.
In that case, how about I kind of take it your direction then? Have you ever had to deal with any kind of, you know what? Okay. The question I was going to ask was, have you ever had to deal with any kind of robocalls like this where it's been artificially generated voices? But I don't know that that's necessarily exactly a fair thing to do, because there are so many scammers now that have done that, where the origination phone call is just an automated voice, and then, as opposed to like actually recording a voice and then having the person get redirected into a scammer's group. I'm loath to specify a country, but there are certain countries that are far and away more likely to be scammer offices than not. Reasons.
Well, I have had calls that were robocalls. Well, I guess that they were robocalls. And I could just tell that I was talking to a computer. And I said, "Am I talking to a computer?" And they went, "Why would you think that?" And then I would say, "Am I talking to a computer?" And it would repeat the same thing. "Why would you think that?" And so I could tell that it was.
Failed the Turing test, did it?
Yep.
That's a thing. I remember having seen somewhere that somebody had actually tricked a chat system where you're going through a corporate website, and there's a little thing in the corner that says click over here to chat with us, and we'll be more than happy to do things with you. And they chatted up whatever the hell it was, and they fairly quickly went ahead and used specific prompts in order to confirm that it was actually an AI bot chat system as opposed to a real person, because they intentionally put in specific terms so that it would spit back out, again, the very specific terms. And that hurts. As somebody that once upon a time ago actually used to be a phone jockey and learned everything about the products so that you could properly give context and help to customers that were calling up, this kind of This kind of bullshit just hurts.
Hey, Shu.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but I have to go.
Nothing wrong with that. You did more than
Bathrooms down the hall
shoot.
to the left.
Yeah, well, no, 5 floors down. Um,
That's what the window's
yeah, it's
for.
too bad.
Express elevator.
Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, well, see, quote, that's between air quotes, right? Uh, all right, guys. Yeah, it's too bad because this topic really interests me a lot. But you all take care, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
no worries.
See you, man.
Bye.
Take care. Thanks for being
Bye.
here. Good night. Good
Yeah,
morning.
thanks. Man. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
This technology, it's not all bad, but it's so easy for it to be abused. Here's a case in where it's actually not bad. A company that I used to work for, I'm not naming names, actually bought a package where what happened is a person was hired to speak into a microphone and read text. They were a book, a novel, whatever it was, but it was reading and reading. The person was reading and speaking they just over and over and over again, different passages, different inflections, the whole 9 yards. And what the company did, um, the company that the person was reading for, they had the algorithm, the speech engine, train the algorithm to be like this person. Now, this person knew what his voice was being used for. Okay, this was not done with somebody. There was nothing underhanded here. This is all above ground, taxes paid on money, the whole 9 yards. And what happened is the company I work for contacted this other company and bought a package, and the package was the algorithm. Okay, for a phone system. So what you did is you typed in what you wanted the people who were calling your company to hear, and that trained voice system would read what you had typed in. So if you said, for the reception desk, please press 1, that's how it would sound. Now, granted, it wasn't a perfect system because it's not like brand new. It was years older. But it gave the company I work for the ability to change up what those prompts were without having to call somebody over and say, hey, look, I need you to sit down. I need you to hit the record button and read this text. And you have somebody who's maybe they're disgruntled, or maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe they just don't want to be there for whatever reason. We all, everybody has something going on. And they had consistency in their voice prompt system. And for something like that, great use of technology, absolutely wonderful. But when you try to hide it behind, why would you think I was a robot? That's just lying and thinking your customers are stupid. So there's a bit of give and take. The, some of the companies use the technology the right way, but more, like Justice pointed out with Google and a bunch of others, they've gone backwards. I remember when Google was in competition with Alta Vista and Ask Jeeves and all the other ones. And it was smoking them out of the water. The Google search engine algorithm was amazeballs. That should be a word if it's not.
Oh, it is.
And I mean, I don't know if you remember. I remember where if I was doing like technical search, I'd have to use one engine. If I was using coding search, I'd have to use another engine. If I was searching for recipes, I'd have to use a third engine. And then anything I look for, I could find on Google. Anything I look for, I could find on Google. And it was clean, it was fast, it was effective. And now it's like pulling freaking teeth. You have to know the tricks of Google. You have to know when to put a string in quotes, when you need to add a plus symbol, when you need to add a minus symbol, when you need to do just all the different cheat codes. It's changed so much to be an engine of advertisement that Google, the whole "don't be evil" thing that we used to joke about. Yeah, that's completely out the window now.
Well,
Has
that's
been for a long time.
That's well. Now, see, let's just make sure that we hit that really quickly. Let's also remember that that used to be Google's internal motto: "Don't be evil." And they traded off one CEO one time, and then they specifically removed that.
Yeah,
So that is
and it
no
was a
longer.
sad day.
Yeah. So yeah, once upon a time ago, we are old enough to remember when Google was intentionally trying to be good, or at the very least, knowing don't be evil.
And I mean, United, well, two health insurance companies are now being sued. Before it was just one, now it's two are being sued. Class action lawsuit because they were using algorithm systems to review patients' diagnosis and care treatments and reject them. And it had something like, out of all the rejections, 90% of them should never have been rejected. And suppose the part of the lawsuit is that they supposedly knew of the high fallibility rate and went ahead with it anyway because hey, rejecting the claims makes some money. And I really wish we would start prosecuting these companies that have been demonstrated to be doing these underhanded tricks in the name of profit. But the problem is we have politicians who are all tied into it, and everybody's too busy looking at the latest iPhone to give a fuck.
So I think it's about time that I go ahead and yet again go. So Bridget, you might know a little something about that, don't you?
Yep, I think one of them was United Healthcare that was doing that.
Ding, 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 ding! You win the booby prize.
I can't imagine how we could have ever possibly figured that one out for ourselves, too. And I'm saying it that way because we've never heard anything bad about UHC before. That would be wrong.
I'm shocked. I say shocked.
So,
But yeah, even their case managers were told to deny X amount of, they had a quota that they were supposed to deny.
yeah. Now, as memory serves, people who are reviewing these kinds of cases, aren't they supposed to have, and I say very carefully, supposed to, with, the scare quotes kind of thing, have some kind of medical training, licensing, so that they can make informed decisions about these kinds of things, shouldn't they?
Yep. Yep. And that's why they're always hiring nurses to review stuff because nurses quit because it's unethical.
And the odd part about it to me is that if there's anybody that I'm going to trust on a hospital floor, yes, I want to have diagnoses done by doctors, but when it comes to the actual hour-to-hour, day-to-day operation of, patient care, Bridget, who actually has the real grunt job of actual patient care?
Nurses.
They always do. See, when the joke comes up, inevitably, of, do whatever it is that the nurses tell you to do, there's a good goddamn reason why people tell you do what the nurses tell you to do.
A lot of times the nurses know more than the doctors do.
And that's why I'm saying, you want a
It catches
diagnosis?
their screw ups.
Yeah. Doctor, you want a diagnosis? Go to a doctor. Cool. You want care? You go to nurses. Because that's just the way that it works out. Whether doctors want to believe it or not, that's what it comes down to. It really is. And the fact that so few people actually understand that blows my mind. The fact that doctors can have this incredibly more superior than God attitude to nurses drives me up a goddamn wall. And I know it's a trope, but There are some who absolutely are exactly that. And no, my dude, you're I don't care, dude, do that. It's all the same. At that point, you're just a walking asshole. No.
I'll give most nurses the benefit of the doubt, but I go when I have family in the hospital and such. I watch them like a hawk because I've seen too many news articles and I've seen too many people that I know who have gone into hospitals and experienced firsthand um, nurses who are anti-vax or anti-mask, or you don't need to take that medication. If you go home and do this happy hippie holistic horse shit, and it's just like, what the fuck are you doing in a hospital? You don't belong here. You need to get the fuck out. Get away from my father. Get away from my mother. Get away from my family member. Get away from whoever. I don't want you around. So, and I've duked it out with nurses a few times. Oh, and it's just, again, if I go in, I meet a nurse I have never met before, I will give him or her the benefit of the doubt. I will give them a tentative level of trust because trust has to be given to some degree. But if they cross that line, it's all gone.
Yeah, and I think Bridget and I will both agree with you on this one that the law of statistics would say that, generally speaking, nurses will fall into the category of, more often than not, people who know what in the hell it is they're doing and have the proper training and follow it. As a 51+% of the population that are nurses, I would assume that you'd agree with me on that one, Bridget.
Yeah. I've had an altercation with a nurse myself that didn't need to be working in hospice. And I told her that she needed to either find somebody else to do the job she wouldn't do, or she needed to go find someplace else to work. But, most other nurses that I've had interactions with have been, great.
Yeah. So I in no way want anybody to think that we are like discounting the way the tech is thinking about this. As a matter of fact, I more agree with them than I don't on this one. Those are the nurses. You know the old expression, oh, it only takes one bad apple to ruin the whole bunch. Yeah. There's always going to be that one out there somewhere.
Unfortunately, I've encountered more than one. So I get to be a little bit more jaded about it.
Of course. Absolutely, of course. And I think it's also safe to say, generally speaking, you don't want to butt heads with the head nurse on a floor.
Oh, the RN? No.
You don't want to.
But believe it or not, I haven't encountered a single RN where I had a problem with them. It was the ones underneath them. The CNAs, the GNAs, the geriatric nursing assistant, the certified nursing assistant, those were the ones that I had encountered that were going, oh, well, your loved one doesn't actually need that level of care. It's like, bullshit. The doctor said so. The RN said so. It's on their chart. You need to do this thing. Oh, well, they're just overreacting. Get the hell out. Get the hell out and get me your boss right now, or so help me God, they're going to need security to remove me. And I was at one where they actually brought in this nurse, and it was a lady who was about 6 foot tall, and she looked like she bench pressed for a living. And she was there because I had raised my voice, and she thought I was talking to down to a family member and was worried that I was um, being abusive towards an elderly patient. And when she found out what was going on, suddenly she was on my side, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, I got the big guns on my side."
Yeah. Oh yeah. So kind of going back a little bit, and then pulling forward again.
Yeah, get off topic. Sorry.
No, that's okay. We can use this as the springboard and kind of rubber band this a little. What we call AI currently is, again, it's algorithmic information sorting, which is a good tool in a medical situation. Being able to use that to identify problems that are starting to have happened in a medical ward, when you've got 4 nurses and 1 head who is, generally speaking, trying to deal with more paperwork than we'd like to think, and you've got four nurses on the line trying to handle 9 ward beds. Yeah, you can't exactly be keeping track of every beep and bloop that's happening, but if you've got something that's monitoring and being able to see what's going on with EKGs, or how many times, perfect example, how many times morphine has been put through the motorized drip in what kind of time frame, how many extra presses have been done. Yeah, I've spent a fair share of time in the cancer ward with my wife, so it's going to be 19 years this spring, and it is it's still just yesterday. So there's a lot of pieces about that is still just fresh in my head about all that. Being able to not have to worry about something until certain conditions are met, and then knowing full well that, okay, you've got the information, a quick recap as to what's going on so that you know what you need to be doing, instead of all of a sudden hearing emergency buzzers going off and having to go in there and find out, okay, what do I need to assess? Yeah, I can see where that would be helpful.
It was also helpful in the scenarios where they've made really good systems that were properly trained to recognize the signs of things like cancer and tumors and things like that. And they were able to spot really early signs that even the doctors missed. That the doctors went back and looked at and went, wow, yeah, I didn't see that. And, they caught things massively early because the system was a computer system. When you give it a detail to go look for, it's better than a bloodhound when it's properly coded. And some of the systems that were taught to go looking for this sorts of things were excellent. The thing is that the excellent ones, the ones that are really, really good, aren't the one being used. It's the half-assed ones. It's the ones that deny the claims. It's the ones that don't really do as great because they're put on a discount price and sold, and they should have never been sold in the first place.
Yeah. So these systems are great for assisting trained professionals, radiological imagery, X-rays, MRIs, PET scans, to be able to identify pieces that might be passed over because of eye strain, eyewear, just being tired and not being able to tell the difference between
human
things.
error.
Right.
But whatever the cause, human error.
Yeah. Now these things going on with claims, medical claims being turned down, could you use an algorithm to investigate the information, pull together all of the patient records and all the doctor records, get a history, and look it through and highlight information for trained professionals to look through and to better identify what's going on, to better get a feel for what's going on? Bridget, I want to put that one past you, because I want you to kind of weigh the automated version of that versus having grunts actually go through the paperwork to find the information that would otherwise be done by an algorithm to say, okay, this is what the history was. Here are the pieces. Here's what the doctor did. Here's what the previous doctor did with the same information, and this is the outcome that's been happened, and this is the outcome that typically happens when these conditions are met. And here's for your review to put a yay or nay on it. Is there any real substantive difference that you could think of between feeding the two different ways to someone to actually professionally review?
That I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, they're still looking at records like page by page. Or at least that's what they require us to send for review, is the complete medical records.
Oh, then okay. I may have an ignorant way of thinking about this one then. So the person that would be ultimately responsible for giving it a yay or nay at the insurance company, they are the ones that actually review a full history as submitted to get payment. They don't necessarily have somebody that like triages it, for lack of a better way of putting it, to get the what might be just the germane parts to put through. When you're an adjuster, you get the whole kit and caboodle, and you got to do the whole thing, huh?
Technically, they're supposed to go to the medical review, but a lot of times the review is done by a nurse. Sometimes you can escalate it up and have an actual medical review by a medical director, a doctor.
But I can also well imagine that there are some states where the regulations are, what's the word I'm looking for? Somewhat lax in who is allowed to do these kinds of yes or no answers.
I can't remember which healthcare company it was. It was one of the big ones. And I don't remember if it was Anthem or who, but there was a suit in California where their medical director had like literally no training. I forget what his specialty was, but yeah, he was like a GP or something, and was just automatically denying everything. And a lot of the stuff he didn't even have any idea what the conditions were.
Wasn't
And he worked there for like 5 years, and they ended up getting sued, but I can't remember who the company was.
Sorry, when you said that they weren't medical, what was it? Medically trained, licensed? What?
Well, it was a doctor, but he was only like a GP or something that was doing all the medical reviews, and a lot of the conditions he was not even familiar with and never heard of, and he was just denying everything.
So just to for the audience, a general practitioner of medicine, where would you expect to find them in the hierarchy of things?
Well, I mean, just a regular family doctor wouldn't
And, and
be.
so a family doctor is going to be like, yeah, you've got a sore throat, you know, you need to take some cough syrup, or you've got a sinus infection, you need to take this whatever. Versus what kind of material would, without giving away anything because of HIPAA rights, um, the kinds of things that he was evaluating, like say, for example, radiology or something.
Like cardiology, neurology, anything like that. You wouldn't want him doing that. You would want a specialist.
Somebody that actually has
Has
some
surgical
experience.
training and, all that.
God, when you said
Okay.
when you said it was a GP that was making these decisions, I'm sorry. In my head, the first thing that literally the first thought that almost came out of my mouth was, "The fuck you say?" Because I literally cannot conceptualize where that would be. How do you sell yourself to a company in a situation like that as being worth for being able to do the job. I literally
have no
I
idea.
don't think it was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no
I have no idea.
yeah
Um, kind of playing a little bit of devil's advocate on this one
sure
because we don't know the true situation behind this guy, or at
okay.
least there might be more there. Um, when we look around, housing market is just it is a seller's market, not a buyer's market. Homes are being bought up; they're being overpriced. Food inflation on all goods and services are through the roof. I mean, you have people who have jobs that you know back in 2010 or earlier could have easily gotten a mortgage on a house, for their family or whatever. Couldn't get one now. Hell, can't even afford rent, and they're working in some cases two jobs. So I see people nowadays where they're in jobs that they're woefully underqualified for, or whatever, more out of desperation.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, subsiding it, the idea that someone could have inflated their medical credentials, I think that'd be the right way of putting it. Um, I mean, yeah, there are ways of inflating your what your abilities and your knowledge might sound like. I mean, we've seen some of the memes and whatnot, but the idea
Oh
of
yeah,
but the
yeah.
idea
He
of
might have tried to sell himself, oversell himself, and all that. Yeah,
right,
definitely.
right. But what I was going to say is, and Bridget, you would know better than we would, and I'm saying that from the standpoint of I don't know at all. If you were to sell yourself, if you were to upsell, shall we say, to the point of um not really being quite truthful, shall we say, your medical qualifications for a job, I have to imagine that could very easily butt heads against some kind of ethics violation. Isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't think that this guy upsold anything. That's just who they hired. And there was a big stink about oncology cases coming through, and he was denying everything because he didn't even know what the conditions were. And he admitted as much.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because the other possibility is he hired into a position that he probably was perfectly fine into, and then got graduated up to the Peter Principle line.
Or they might have hired him intentionally, knowing that he didn't know jack shit, just so that things could get denied.
Which also means that they'd be able to pay somebody less for the position because, well, they could just skirt the line just close enough.
Yep.
Because a trained medical professional might cost, double, triple, because that's what they're worth in the real world. And to make sure that everybody understands what I was referring to, pushed up to their Peter Principle line. The Peter Principle is the truism. I'm going to call it the truism because it seems to be that, from Lawrence J. Peters' book, The Peter Principle. The idea is that everyone is, God, I'm trying to remember how to properly say it. Everyone is promoted up to their level of incompetence. If you're good at a job, you get promoted because you're good at that job. And if you're good at that job, then you're promoted up past it, until you get to a point where you are just hanging on because you can't do that level job nearly as well as what you just got promoted from. And then, well, then that's where you get stuck. And nobody's happy about it because you're just hanging on, and, well, okay, you're just doing well enough. So this algorithmic stuff, generating poor information, being utilized by groups that just want to make a buck because they can, because there aren't enough regulations in place to keep them from doing that, because the United States is a corporate hellscape. I think there's no arguing that point as far as to how this kind of stuff works. Traditionally, how do we fix corporate hellscapes here in this country?
We don't.
We can't.
That's part of the problem.
They just get worse and worse.
Yeah, and they get worse and worse because the way the legislation is for penalizing companies, and we've talked about this for different things, different episodes, different topics, but it all comes down to the same thing. You know, you have a major corporation here who makes, let's say they pull in terms of profits, after everybody's been paid, after all the electric bills have been done, and so on and so forth, $4 billion in profits. That's just a number I pulled out of my ass. Um, and they get caught doing something really, 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 really bad. They pay a $1 million fine. Out of $4 billion, they'll pay a $1 million fine, or $2 million fine, or $5 million fine.
And
Yeah.
gets written off as a tax deduction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the cost of doing business. It's a line
Exactly.
item. It's the equivalent of change caught in the seat cushions of your sofa and move on.
And the thing is that because it's so profitable to just do the wrong and pay the fines, they keep doing it. More importantly, um, they end up taking the money and lobbying the politicians to, you know, make sure that certain rules and regulations that they don't want to go in effect that could make it really harmful for them to do business to continue those sorts of behaviors never go into effect. And politicians have been doing this for a very long time, where if they don't want something to go through, right? But the majority of other politicians do want it to go through. They'll attach a rider to it that they know the other politicians don't want. So now it gets booked off the floor, and suddenly, hey, it didn't go through to punish the corporations, but they also they made sure that this really bad legislation didn't go through either. So it balances out. We did the right thing. It's like, first off, we need to stop allowing riders. We have to stop that shit right off the bat. No more riders, no more attaching something along that they think is going to pass to get other shit through it without people knowing what the hell is going on. And I understand that the argument has been made, well, if there's no riders, it's going to take forever to get something done. It's like, fine, keep them in the seats and make them work their asses off, because obviously, if they can only get work done with the riders, they're not pulling enough hours. Because I know the people down the street from me pull wicked amount of hours to support their family. The politicians can do their damn job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once we actually have these legislative things in place that go, oh, you made 4 billion, okay, and you did this horrible, horrible thing, okay. No, we're not doing a $1 million fine or a $5 million fine. We're fining you, 85% of your profits, and we're prosecuting, the person in charge of making the decisions that caused this to happen. You know what? Companies would turn around real freaking quick, or they would go tits up.
Yeah. Yeah. There, the idea, and I'm going to do this one really quickly because I just want it to be just a drop it in and drop it in and move on really quickly after. But see where it is. If you guys have got something to comment on this one, it's real tight. The idea that a medical insurance company here in the United States should have profits in the beyond millions category is simply, to me, morally wrong and reprehensible, because that is money that should be going back into making sure that everyone gets their stuff taken care of, because what in the hell is the point otherwise? That's just me. There's a certain point for me where Joseph keeps reminding us that profit is literally just taking money out of the economy and away from everyone. And it's just, what the hell is the point? But then again, I talk about stuff like that, and all of a sudden, well, why don't socialist you? Why don't you just go on Medicare or Medicaid? And under different names, that's kind of what a lot of other countries have got. It seems to be working out just relatively fine for most of them. But again, that's just me. And before anybody says it, I know everybody's got complaints and problems with their socialized medicine systems. I get it. But considering the possibilities of how it works over here in the US, trust me, it's a damn sight better. Imperfect, but it's a damn sight better. So those of you that got that, you're definitely a leg up from us on that one. So there we go.
I mean, with what we have available to us in terms of medical technology, educated doctors and nurses, and so on and so forth, at least the ones that haven't left this country yet, we could, if done properly, have better socialized healthcare for every single American, leaps and bounds better than any other country. We really could. And we would be able to stand up with our heads high and go, ha, we did it better than any of you. You want to talk about, bragging rights? That would be one hell of a thing to brag about. But no, we won't do that, because the lobbyists pay the politicians do the votes of what the corporations ask for, and they continue to pocket money and steal away from the American people while telling them this is good for you. This is what you want. Trust us, not the healthy people.
Fair enough. And Iowa over there has pointed out, I can't get Medicare, Medicaid, I would be deported. I get you. I am terribly sorry for that. You do your best not to twist an ankle, I suppose. I wish I could say much more than that. Moving back in past. One of the only ways that we have dealt with corporate hellscaping here in the US, to some degree, not the best of degrees, but in some degree, is to put into place rules. Rules is just another way of saying laws, only just without the bureaucracy of government involved. And sure, there's always going to be the groups that are going to be just like, well, why should government get in the line of blah, 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 blah. You know what? If it wasn't for government getting in the way of the corporate hellscape, the East River would still be a cesspool of leftover Buicks from the mafia. We would still have the Hudson River having stuff being dumped from manufacturing plants, just dumping stuff into the river waste. There would still be huge volumes of freaking mercury in the Great Lakes. It's still not great by any stretch of imagination, but it's a hell of a lot better than what it was. There would still be killing smog in California. and we would have literally flaming rivers in part of the almost Midwest, in Ohio, in Pittsburgh. We don't have that. I can't say entirely, because every once in a while something still happens. But without those kinds of regulations, stuff would still just be dumped with no care whatsoever about the health and well-being of the people around. And there's still stuff that's being fixed, but it's slow because, fixing takes time. And the legislations that go into all that, it's tooth and nail in order to make that happen. So for me, even though this is not a physical thing, this is an electronic tool, this is a nebulous, this is a data, I am still of the absolute opinion that there needs to be not just serious legislation, rules put in place for the safeguard of society about this algorithmic stuff, but again, like Tech pointed out, there needs to be some serious teeth for people that contravene those rules. And even more so for the ones that are intentionally breaking down the social structure by using these. So I want to get a little bit more into that, just for the couple. I know I'm kind of laying out a lot right there, but and we don't have very much left. But as far as to what kind of rules could we see, and I'm not saying that from the standpoint of what could be reasonably passed for legislation. I mean, what would we want to see? What kind of things do we think, not knowing very well about how a lot of this tech works, what kind of things could we want to hear being put into place to know that there are ways of safeguarding? And I'll give you an example really quickly, just to kind of get the ball rolling. These kinds of deepfake audio kind of things, there should be a fingerprinting system in the super audio frequency range that we humans would not be able to necessarily hear it, but there would be stuff that you put it through a spectrograph, you'd be able to see it up in the 25-30 kilohertz range where humans can't hear it, but you put it through a spectrograph and you'd be able to see information come up that shows that it was specifically fingerprinted for different groups, or something to at least show, yes, this was generated. I'm wondering if you guys got anything on this angle.
I mean, technology-wise, there'd be a way to spoof it, but I mean, it would take a while. It'd be a cat and mouse game between those who are trying to spoof and those who are trying to constantly change it so it can't be spoofed and so on, just like encryption and other security systems. Um, but that would actually generate a whole nother sector of information security and operational security sectors. Um, you could probably do something like that. Um, multi-level layers, generation of signaling. Um, but the thing is that you have to have the other technology catch up with it. We spend a lot of time making backward compatibility in this country because of we have companies who don't want to spend their massive amount of gains to bring us up on the speed. We still have an insane amount of copper lines in this country that companies refuse to get rid of because they're still making a profit off of it in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's marginal at best, it's still considered to be profit. Whereas laying new fiber that's not profitable until after a little while. You have to buy the material, you have to get the certified technicians, you have to lay the line, get the permits and everything else, whereas copper's still there. So where you have other countries breezing by us because they never laid down that kind of copper infrastructure to begin with, and they started with the more advanced stuff, we have all this old shit lying around that nobody wants to get rid of because, oh, I don't want to spend the money. And that's a theme that we see with everything in this country. They don't want to spend the money on people. They don't want to spend the money on tech. They don't want to spend the money on anything except, well, they like spending money on guns and bombs and shit. They love spending money on that. They definitely don't like spending money on education anymore. It's a little bass backwards right now.
Bridget, I'm hoping you got anything.
Not really.
Okay, let me bring it a little. Let me bring it a little tighter in. Then maybe that'll work for you. The company that was being sued, or I'm assuming it's multiple ones, for algorithmically declining or reviewing medical stuff and choosing one way or the other on that kind of thing. What would you think about the idea of having those reviews be specifically tagged with who did the review? For instance, being able to find out, was it reviewed by a human? Was it reviewed by an algorithm? So that it could be traced back, so that there is an actual paper trail that says who handled it, how was it handled, because you could ask afterwards.
I think there already is one. I think that's how they got busted.
Oh. Well, that's obviously a piece I didn't know anything about. I'm just full of ignorance tonight, aren't I?
Well, it would do a thing like, suppose you had a procedure done and the average time in the hospital is like 2 days after this procedure. Now, if you have complications, you could be in the hospital, for more time, but it would just reject the more time and say, no, you only get these 2 days or whatever. The algorithm would do that.
But oh God, I can't believe I'm gonna word it this way. Couldn't a newbie also just open their their procedure book, find the information, and just hardline say, it says that it could be 2 days, it could be, if there's a complication, it could be 2 weeks. But we're just going to give you the 2 days, and that's all I'm willing to do because I'm just going to be a hard ass about it because it looks good on my numbers and I can just put, boom, done.
Yeah, that's possible too. Because I know that on some case managers, if they override too many things like that, then they get written up.
But again, it's from
Goes
companies
against their metrics. Yeah.
because it eventually ends up eating into whatever
Company
billions
profits.
of profit.
Yep.
Not they don't have the money, but that's a whole other thing. That's the thing. And as an aside, by the way, I know we're butting up on close to the top of the hour. You guys over there in the live chat, I have been paying attention. It's just trying to figure out what I can pull in, utilize tonight. It's just been really difficult for me to try and follow all the things in my own head and work with you guys. So sorry I haven't been touching you guys, figuratively speaking, tonight. Sorry. But Yeah, man. The idea that you could have somebody that just wants to be a hard ass and just okay, give the lowest number that I can because it looks good for me and that's money that I save, so it could go into a bonus later. I could see that. I can, and that's, man, it's another one of those corporate hellscape things. But then again, I've talked about my particular position on profiteering, and we're not going to go down that angle right now. Because I don't want to be yelling. Not this late at night. Before we go ahead and call it a night, I want to ask you guys, what would we like to see algorithmic stuff actually? And I'm not saying that from the standpoint of, like I was saying, everything that it does should be earmarked so that we can all figure it out. I'm not saying that it should be utilized for used in a way to identify fakes. For instance, use AI, use algorithm information to detect algorithm information. Fine, I'll use AI that way, algorithm information. But we've seen the quote unquote AI systems, the special learning systems in science fiction for very, very long. I mean, the Starship computers are incredibly good at these kinds of things because you can get away with that because why not, science fiction. But from the past, maybe from some kind of science fiction, maybe book, maybe movie, maybe TV series, whatever, what kind of thing are you kind of disappointed that we don't already have access to using that kind of really smart, incredibly powerful computer system and data warehousing so far? Because for me, I know we wouldn't exactly be able to do it in reality, but I really, really wish there was something a lot more akin to the Star Trek holodecks. I know there are certain ways of kind of doing it with a run in place a run in place unit that you can stand in and putting VR goggles on and holding VR controllers and whatnot to play games and whatnot like that. It's not quite the real thing. But the idea of being just more loose and be able to walk around in a environment, really, really wish that we're closer to being a real thing. So I'm wondering, like I said, what kind of thing that you guys would have liked to have seen by now.
I'd be on board with a holodeck.
It wouldn't be bad.
Von Neumann probes.
Run that by me again?
It's called a von Neumann probe.
Okay.
The idea comes from the person who came up with the concept. The idea is that you build a spacecraft that has the ability to build another one of itself down to whatever level, right? But it can basically make a perfect replica of itself, given the appropriate materials. This probe does not have human beings on board. It's completely computerized. The probe's goal is to go in deep into outer space, make a copy of itself, and send that copy off in a particular direction. It's completely up to the programmers. And depending on the programming that the von Neumann probe receives, of course. Um, the idea is that one probe makes one copy. Then you have two probes out there making two copies. Now you have four probes. Then you go from four probes to eight probes, from eight probes to 16, 16 to 32, and so on. It keeps doubling up. And, you might have, uh, you might want to refrain from swarming the universe with self-replicating probes that are going to take up all resources. So you might have them limit how many probes can be in any sector at any given time. So maybe you make the maximum size swarm, I don't know, just because I'm in the binary state of mind, 256. So once the first probe that's replicated makes 255 copies of itself, it can't make any more copies. It's at the software level cutoff. These probes go out and explore. They find out things. They record data and they send it back to Earth. And the idea being is that they're multi-purposed. Maybe finding new places where we can expand the human race to, finding other civilizations to talk to or to trade with or to engage with, hopefully not to have a fight with. Um, and of course, if you're a fan of the three body problem, you would know that putting out Van Neumann probes would be a really bad idea. But I'm more of an optimist in terms of outer space than I am a pessimist. So yeah, I would love to see the algorithm systems, artificial intelligence systems, using von Neumann probe technology to create self-replicating probes to explore the things that we just don't have the human lifespans or the cryogenic storage of the cryogenic systems to send humans to do. And we don't have the ability to put a human brain inside of a computer, or replicated, I should say, inside of a computer yet, to use as a to use for that purpose. So an AIS would probably be the next best thing in terms of what we have available to us now. We have 3D printing. We have the ability to print with metal and other materials. Granted, it would be a very bulky, if we were to use today's technology to create one, it would be a very bulky system. It would be very slow to replicate, and there's a really good chance it wouldn't get very far before it ran into a whole lot of problems. Um, I was hoping that by the time I reached the age that I was at, that we'd already be exploring space with human beings, but boy, was I wrong.
Maybe it's still doable. I don't think so myself, because there are certain technological hurdles. I've known I've had a heavy duty interest in space exploration since I was a kid. I mean, hell, I was born in time, just in time, to be able to watch the Apollo 11 mission. Granted, I don't have any formative memories of it, but I'm pretty sure it had a little something to do with me. But there are still possibilities. So, who knows? Maybe we still will. There's only one way to find out. I'd really like to see that too. But I guess we kind of have to wait and see, just kind of get our footing a little further on that. In the meantime, I think now's about as good a time as any to go ahead and close up shop. Be a really good idea. So, everybody, as always, thank you for being with us. Hope that you had yourself a good time and you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and you got something to think about for the week ahead. Because I don't know what's going to be happening with the weather in the week ahead, but I'm still very much afraid that the weather's cold snap is going to come back and bite us in the ass pretty hard. We'll see. Tech, glad you're able to make it. You take care of yourself, and I think that's pretty well about it right now.
You too.
Glad you're able to make it, man. You take care of yourself.
Will do.
Bridget, there are no list of people that could very easily go with the whole F you tonight. You got to.
I'm going to go with Donald Trump because of what he said about NATO and saying that Russia could do whatever the hell they want.
You know what? I got no arguments there.
By the way, I want to be very clear here, just because of how this all started out.
Mhm.
If the company had done what they had done with Biden's voice, but they had instead done it with Trump's voice, I would still be as equally pissed off and upset.
Here, here.
It's not about Biden versus Trump. It was about how it was used and what it was used, or how it was used. And I don't care if it had been used against Trump or Biden. It didn't matter. It was how it was used that was wrong.
Agreed. And yeah, it may be a little bit late to add that into the mix at this point, but it is very germane and very important that we do state that on the official. Appreciate that. And for me, real quickly, I'm just going to go ahead and just say the entire Republican Party can just go ahead and fuck themselves, because everybody from the Speaker of the House, you know what, I'm just going to stop right there, because yeah. And I'm expecting that there's a certain extremely geriatric past Speaker of the House, minority personality, I believe is what is on his official bio right now, minority leader, who's probably due for some kind of cardiovascular major problem, probably in the very near future. I would not wish ill on any particular person, but I have a certain distaste for amphibians. I think it's fair to say that. So I'm going to go with that. You guys over there in the live chat, of course, thank you as always. Stephanie, Felis, Io, thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. I do see that the show notes section has lit up for me, so I'll be looking over there to see what I gotta add. So just thank you very kindly. If you want to be in touch with us, all the contact information is over at the website at holycrapthevlogcast.com. And the phone number, if you want to be in contact that way, is 859-HCTV-554, 859-4288-554. And we'll be looking forward to talking to you again next week. So, as always, until the next time that we're together, I wish you, as always, the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. Whatever it is that you celebrate this week coming up, take care of yourselves. Enjoy it. And I feel very self-conscious because I do not have a hat to tip this time, because I took it off because it wouldn't go with this whole thing. So to you all, good night.